Hello, hello all, and welcome to the L Show, where the L in the L Show stands for leaning in, which means we will not shy away from any subject, no matter how taboo or uncomfortable it may be. Subjects like menopause, sex and libido, menopause, dry vagina, hot flashes, mental health and depression, which makes you not want to have sex, how we look, and how we feel. I am your host, Dr. Nicole Eastman, and I am the owner of Rose Pharmacy and Boutique Apothecary located here in Cornelius. We are a compounding pharmacy with a focus on functional medicine and a much more natural approach to your health. And for those who are not familiar with what compounding is where your pharmacist makes medications that are formulated in a specific dose and or in a specific dosage form that is unique to you. And not all compounds or compounding facilities are alike, and quality shows in every aspect of what we do. You can find out more about us by checking us out on Instagram and Facebook at Rose Pharmacy and Boutique Apothecary, or on our website, www.roserxboutique.com. And remember, the information presented on this show does not take the place of advice from your healthcare provider and may not be suitable for all audiences. Happy Friday to all of my viewers and listeners. Hope everyone is well out there. So I always begin, the shows talking about something. And recently it's been about weight loss. Well, of course, it's still going to be about weight loss because that is still the hot topic. So Oprah, and you guys know that the last time that I really did a little deep dive on Oprah's show, that I had some issues with how biased I felt like it was. And it really didn't address certain things around access. It didn't address how are people going to get this medication. Didn't really address a lot of the side effects as well, I thought. But again, I felt it was biased. The drug companies' representatives were there. And so they were speaking in a way that I felt like it wasn't really as transparent as it could have been. And I felt like Oprah kind of contributed to that. But again, I want to take my hats off to Oprah because she has come out and issued an apology just recently. And it was an apology for her contribution to the toxic diet culture. Now, we know that, nowadays we have everybody's in the news, right? And social media and all that other stuff. And so this kind of drives a lot of it. But, there's a lot of the fat shaming and there's the negativity that goes along with people who are suffering from obesity, right? And lots of things that, because it's so complex, people just assume that, you can just eat 100 million carrots and, walk 5,000 steps in a minute and you're going to lose weight. Well, sometimes that's just not the case because, obesity is quite complex. But I will say that Oprah made this comment, and I want to read this. I want to make sure I'm not in any way altering. She said, whether you choose to start moving more, whether you want to eat differently, whether you want to change your lifestyle, whether or not you want to take medications, or whether you choose to do absolutely nothing, that you are satisfied exactly the way you are and where you are. That's up to you, whatever your path. This has been a watershed moment for many people. So I just want to say thank you to Oprah for making that comment because, again, I think when we're dealing with weight loss and when we're dealing with, medications and we're dealing with ways to improve a situation that could be life-threatening, obesity is a disease and it is life-threatening for many people, and these medications are life-saving. Now, of course, we go back to the issue of access. Where can you get it? It's not available because so many people are using it, that sort of thing. But again, that's where compounding pharmacies come in. You can also talk with a compounding pharmacy and they could probably help you out with making sure that you have access to the medications that you need. But seriously, when we think about all of the people who are in the news, so something else, Kelly Clarkson, she received some backlash recently around not disclosing what medications that she was taking for her weight loss. Apparently, she had been taking one of these GLP-1s, the semaglutide or the tirzepatide, and she didn't disclose it, and people were pissed, right? But that's honestly the entitlement of social media and people feeling like, they have to know everything about everyone. It's still personal. It's still a very personal thing. And people oftentimes have some mental issues when it comes to, how they look and their self-awareness. And so Kelly, I would just say she just didn't feel like she needed to disclose all of that information. And I absolutely don't blame her. So again, hats off to Oprah for coming back and readdressing this issue of the whole weight loss culture and how to appropriately assess it mentally, physically, and those sorts of things. I'll say this too. This is Mental Health Awareness Month. And we know that oftentimes what comes with certain disease states, and I'll say obesity, is depression and things of that nature, right? But I will tell you that if we were doing a show, if somebody came onto the show and we're talking about, that they had let's just say Kelly Clarkson comes on, she says, I have a mental health crisis, and she doesn't disclose all the medication that she's taking. I don't think anybody would have an issue with that, right? But the whole weight loss thing, it is such a touchy subject and so just over the top. It can just be, it gets distorted. So I will say, again, hats off to Oprah for coming out with that. Hats off to all those folks who are coming out and talking about how toxic the culture can be, how toxic the culture is of weight loss. Remember, it is a personal thing, and what works for one may not work for the other. What you may be able to access may not be the same thing someone else may be able to access. But again, just remember, when we're talking about weight loss, it is a personal journey, and some people who are obese absolutely need options that are just not run of the mill in order to save their lives. So I will say that, and I will continue on. So real quick too, talking about mental health. I don't know about you guys, but today was really stressful for me. Thank goodness I am hormonally balanced. But coming here on Catawba Avenue was nuts. My store is not far away from the studio, and it took me a good 25 minutes to get here. And that is enough to stress anyone out. So I'll just put it. Yes, yes, exactly. So again, thank goodness balanced hormonally, because I think I would have lost my mind. No puns intended. But wonderfully today, I have a fabulous guest on the show by the name of Dr. Chasity Adams. She is a licensed psychologist, and this is her arena. Mental health is her arena. It is Mental Health Month, and we want to make sure that we are able to pick her brain today around all the amazing things that she does, her practice, and things that can help all of us out day to day. So if you or your healthcare provider has been looking for a quality compounding pharmacy in the Lake Norman area, look no more. Rose Pharmacy is the place for you, where quality shows in every aspect of what we do. And if you are taking too many medications, too many supplements, or both, make sure that you take advantage of our consultation services where we can help you safely solve that issue. And question, if someone asks you, how is your gut doing? What would be your answer? Are you suffering from inflammation, chronic bowel disease, feeling sluggish, etc.? Remember that everything begins and ends with a healthy gut. The effectiveness of any therapy that you may be on is linked to how well your gut is performing. And if we can improve your gut, many of the issues that you think you could do nothing about on your own can respond quite favorably. So take advantage of one of Rose Pharmacy's gut bundles that we can tailor specifically to your needs, because our goal is to help you get and stay on track with a much better quality of life. Feel free to call into the studio with questions or comments, 844-STUDIO-4, and we will see you on the other side of the break. Hello all, and welcome back to The Elle Show. I am your host, Dr. Nicole Eastman. If you or your healthcare provider has been looking for a quality compounding pharmacy in the Lake Norman area, look no more. Rose Pharmacy is the place for you, where quality shows in every aspect of what we do. And if you're taking too many medications, too many supplements, or both, make sure that you take advantage of our consultation services where we can help you safely solve that issue. And question, if someone asks you, how's your gut? What would be your answer? Are you suffering from inflammation, chronic bowel disease, bloating, feeling sluggish, etc.? Remember that everything begins and ends with a healthy gut. The effectiveness of any therapy that you may be on is linked to how well your gut is performing. And if we can improve your gut, many of these issues that you think you can do nothing about on your own can respond favorably. So take advantage of one of Rose's gut bundles that we can tailor specifically to your needs, because our goal is to help you get and stay on track with a much better quality of life. And with Rose, there's a guarantee of what is in each and every bottle of the supportive supplements that we offer. And very few companies can offer you that. Mention that you heard about Fixing Your Gut on the Elle Show or WSSE News, and we're going to give you 10% off your purchase. Please be sure to either call in with questions or comments at 844-STUDIO-4 or 844-788-3464. So I am here with a fabulous guest who is also one of my besties, Dr. Chasity K. Adams. She is a licensed psychologist, health service provider. She's a life coach, speaker, and author. She received her doctorate in clinical psychology from Roosevelt University in Chicago, Illinois. Yeah, you are from Chicago. I know you're a Chicago girl. Welcome, Dr. Adams. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. And thank you so much for having me during Mental Health Awareness Month. This month is very important, so thank you for supporting this month.
Absolutely. Absolutely, girl. So listen, I mean, I know all about you, okay, but our listeners don't. Okay, so I want you to give us a little bit of history. Tell us about yourself, your background, and how you came to be where we are today.
So it sounds like you're asking me for my origin story.
Yeah. Kind of like Marvel's.
Just a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
In a nutshell, I'm originally from Memphis, Tennessee, born and raised. I am the only child of my parents. I grew up witnessing two different lifestyles. One from my father, which was infected with poverty and addiction. The other lifestyle was an emphasis on education and spirituality. I had big decisions to make at a young age because I saw two diametrically opposed lifestyles. I could have easily gone either way. In witnessing things that were occurring in my environment, I became fascinated with why do people behave the way that they do? Why would one person become addicted to a drug and not another person? Why is one person resilient and not another person? I was intrigued, so much so that in high school, I took AP courses and psychology AP courses because I wanted to know more about human behavior. Another thing that happened in my childhood is that my father did become a product of his environment. As a result, he started going to juvenile detention centers at age 13, and he continued to go in and out of incarceration when I came about. So growing up, I visited him in these places. So I saw him and his jail friends. And I was able to talk to them and hear their stories. They all had interesting backgrounds, and their environment played such a huge role in some of the decisions that they made. Because my father was so overwhelmed with addiction, I also had, I will say, the privilege of attending mandatory AA meetings with him. AA meetings taught me a lot about addiction. It allowed me to have a lot of compassion and grace for my father, as well as many others, which is why he and I were able to have a very strong relationship until the day that he died.
Wow, thank you for sharing that with the audience. I do say that, even outside of here, so we're in this environment, right? But I know how your upbringing has brought you here, and your transparency is amazing. So I want to thank you for that up front. I want to thank you for that. Not everybody's going to share that information, but again, this is what we're here about, transparency in this show. Okay?
Did you tell me to lean in?
I know, lean into that. Exactly. And I want to say something else too. So Dr. Adams, she is used to asking questions. Okay. She is not, the one who likes answering them. That's just her thing. Like, she will ask questions. She will pepper you with questions because she's so interested in your life and where you've come from and where you are. Very, very, very engaging. But as soon as you turn that around and start asking her questions, She is, I'm going to be, listen, this is going to be very interesting today to see. But so far good. So far, we're doing good. So again, thank you for letting me pepper you with questions today and find out about you, because you're so helpful to other people. You are so interested in other people, and we are interested in you. Okay? So, okay, let's talk about this. So what is your typical approach to your patients? There are age ranges, right? So let's first talk about the age ranges that you see, and then let's talk about your approach to those age ranges.
On average, I will see a person 16 to 18. 16 is actually usually the lowest age, but typically 18. So young adults to older adults, 18 to about 65. So we are tapping into the perimenopausal.
Exactly.
And there's the puberty group. So I kind of span the gamut with the ages.
So when we talk about, and again, you know that the show is all about women and all the things that we go through, especially during that menopausal time. And like myself, I do have teenage daughters that also are going through hormonal changes. So I want to know what your approach is to that patient, and then we can talk about approaches to other patients. But those patients who we are thinking maybe could be menopause?
Yes.
So tell me about that.
So first, I'd like to say it's just an interesting concept. And some people would say it's kind of cruel and evil that a woman is going through perimenopause at the same time her daughter is going through puberty. What kind of weird joke is being played on us?
That's a horrible joke.
That is horrible. I don't see the humor in it.
No.
Some people call it hormonal overload or just a full catastrophe of hormones. There are so many different names for this in the world. There's actually a lot of research done on this time. It's for about a decade or so, women have started having their first child in their mid-30s. Prior to a couple decades ago, women were having their children in their early 20s, mid-20s.
That's true. That's so right.
So many of our parents are unfamiliar with this collapse or collision because they didn't experience it. So to some degree, it's new to us to go through perimenopause at the same time that our daughters are going through puberty. So the first thing I think about with a client is you actually asked me about a screener. So there's no real screener that I would use in my practice for premenopausal. But my first question in my mind is going to be, how old is my client? If my client is 40 plus, I'm thinking perimenopausal. So that question I already know. The question I'm going to ask my client is, do you know your mother's history of menopause, her menopause story? How old she was when she started? How old were you? I'm going to check in about her history. After that, I'm going to find out more about her symptoms. Is she angry, irritable, moody, weight change, weight loss, weight gain, and for how long has this been occurring? So those are somewhat of screener questions that I will inquire. So the first thing I want to work with her, if I see that she is dealing with some perimenopausal situations and her daughter's going through puberty, I'm going to ask her to increase her awareness of what's going on with her body. So if we've established that this is something perimenopausal because I've encouraged her to go see her primary care or her gynae, and they've said, yes, your hormones are changing, you're going through some changes. So she's going to come back and report them like, okay, I know what we're working with. That's step one, awareness. You can't heal what hasn't been revealed. So now that we are aware that it is a hormonal imbalance, hormonal changes, hormonal things that are occurring, we now know that we're not losing our mind. Many clients come to me saying, if they're unaware of what they're going through, they're saying, I'm going crazy. I don't know what has happened to me. A demon has possessed my body.
Oh, yeah. You don't know who you are. You look into the mirror. You're like, what the heck is going on?
Who am I? What is going on? I hate my life. I hate my family. And this is how people talk.
Yes.
And and people are really transparent with me. So they've even said, I hate my kids. Like, because it's so overwhelming and they don't understand it. So when we add awareness to it, that often adds normalcy and it calms down their hormones to some degree. So now they can move forward. And how do I deal with this? Okay, now I know I'm not just bat crazy. I can figure out what to do. So that's where the teamwork begins. So now that we are aware, I'm going to ask her to check in with her daughter. What's going on with your daughter? How old is she? Is she going through puberty? Say the child is 11 and she's thinking, well, no, she's not going through puberty. Research shows that rapidly growing feet are a clear sign of puberty that most people don't think about.
I'm going to stop you right there because my daughter, that's what happened. But we'll continue this conversation on the other side of the break. If you or your healthcare provider has been looking for a quality compounding pharmacy in the Lake Norman area, look no more. Rose Pharmacy is the place for you where quality shows in every aspect of what we do. Someone asks you how your gut's doing, think about how many issues you could be having with regard to chronic bowel, feeling sluggish, etc., those sorts of things. Remember that everything begins and ends with a healthy gut. And if we can improve your gut, many of these issues can be resolved. And with Rose coming in for one of our gut bundles, we're going to give you 10% off because our goal is to help you get and stay on track with a much better quality of life. On the other side of the break, we're going to continue with Dr. Chasity Adams. See you soon. Welcome back to the Elle Show. I'm your host, Dr. Nicole Eastman. If you or your healthcare provider has been looking for a quality compounding pharmacy in the Lake Norman area, look no more. Rose Pharmacy is the place for you, where quality shows in every aspect of what we do. And if you are taking too many medications, too many supplements, or both, make sure that you take advantage of our consultation services where we can help you safely solve that issue. And question, if someone asks you, how is your gut doing? What would be your answer? Are you suffering from inflammation, chronic bowel issues, bloating, feeling sluggish, etc.? Remember that everything begins and ends with a healthy gut. The effectiveness of any therapy that you may be on is linked to how well your gut is performing. And if we can improve your gut, many of these issues that you think you can do nothing about on your own can respond quite favorably. So take advantage of one of Rose Pharmacy's gut bundles that we can tailor specifically to you, to your needs, because our goal is to help you get and stay on track with a much better quality of life. And with Rose, there is a guarantee of what is in each bottle of supportive supplements that we offer. Very few companies can say that. Mention that you heard about Fixing Your Gut on the Elle Show or WSIC News, and we're going to give you 10% off of your purchase. And remember that you can call into the studio at 844-STUDIO-4, or you can interact with us on social media with your comments and questions. We left off with Dr. Adams discussing just kind of the telltales of puberty. And she brought up one that just jogged me, which is rapidly growing feet. That happened with Mila. So it's very interesting that you say that. So
I thought it was very important to mention it because that is very subtle.
Very subtle.
And for that matter, I wanted everyone to understand that some of the signs are subtle. But as a mother who is going through premenopausal herself and you want to look for the signs in your child, that is a very important and subtle sign to keep in mind. So I was mentioning awareness of what changes are occurring in your body. It's going to be helpful to be aware of the changes that are occurring in your teen's body as she's going through puberty. So an interesting thing, this time is often called reverse puberty. It's reverse puberty because the perimenopausal woman is often decreasing in areas in which the puberty child is increasing. So the child is increasing in hair growth, height. The perimenopausal woman is decreasing possibly in hair. And people
all the time, yes.
People say we shrink as we get older,
yes.
So maybe even height. I'd hate to think of my teen increasing in libido, but
that's hormones.
And we are typically decreasing in libido. So that's why it's interesting they call it the reverse puberty. So it's just an interesting concept. I don't think it's a concept that is discussed enough. And I think Mental Health Awareness Month is a great time to discuss this.
So, Dr. Adams, when we're dealing with and we're going to get, the book, we're going to get to the book, but I want to make sure that everybody hears this. So when we are dealing with that perimenopausal woman and her pubescent child, what are your recommendations? Like, how do you do it? And I'm asking for myself as well, right? So how do you do that? I know we've talked in the past about contracts and things like that, but just talk me through that, because I think that's very, very helpful to many of our listeners.
Absolutely. Communication is key. Open communication is key. I would have hoped before now that the doors of communication were open, but if not, it's never too late. Now is the time to begin talking with your team. And talk to your team about what's going on with your body so that they won't think that mom is losing her mind. Let her know what is going on. Mm-hmm. And let your team know that they can come to you if they're experiencing irritability, moodiness, and things to that nature. And some teens don't really want to talk, and that's fine. If they don't want to talk, a lot of people use a notebook, and the mother will provide a notebook to the daughter and say, write to me. And then just slide it under my door and kind of let me know what you like, support, validation, or just to get it out. And I will give the notebook back. And if you've asked for just support, I support you. I hear you. And they can pass that notebook back and forth between each other, mother and daughter. Many people have found that helpful. The last thing I'm going to mention just for the mother is take care of yourself. Self-care. Yes. Whatever that means, however that looks to you, self-care. Because your emotions may be all over the place, it's going to be helpful for you to get grounded. And how do you get grounded? It's unique to each person. And self-care is more than grooming. Self-care is taking care of, I like to say, 3 aspects: your physical, mental, and spiritual. Physical, self-explanatory. Anything exercise related, stretching, moving your body. And if you can do that once a day, check, that's a win. Mental, learn something new every day. It can be one word. I like the word of the day. I subscribe to the word of the day. So I'm going to read it. They're going to send me a new word every day. I think it's pretty awesome. Read a book, read a newspaper, and you don't have to read for an hour at a time. It's the small things. Because during this time of perimenopause, your brain is changing, your mind is changing. You want to keep your mind active. And lastly, spirituality. It can look different for anyone. It could be reading an affirmation. If it's the Bible, read the Bible. Reading something that's uplifting and inspirational to keep you going and grounded. Self-care, paramount importance.
Okay, so while we are, because I think this kind of leads us into your book, and I'm actually going to hold up. This is her book. It's called Reclaiming Your Best Self, The 4 Disciplines of Mindful Acceptance. And, this book, we talked about, what you and I talked about offline, so what did you learn about yourself while writing this book? And why did you write this book? So let's start there. Would you answer those questions for me, ma'am?
Sounds like we're asking for more transparency.
Yes, we are. We love it.
So what inspired me, first of all, to write the book was that I can only see so many clients in session. And I really wanted to be impactful. And I love individual therapy. So I didn't want to have a big group practice and other people were seeing my clients for me. I like it to remain small, very intimate. I do deep dives into people's lives. However, my clients would like to see me more than I'm available. So writing my book allowed me to give them, say, a part of me. And many of them felt like it was a part of me. I know you haven't mentioned it yet, but I've written 2 books. The other book is a workbook, and that allows people to actually assign homework to themselves. And I say that because many people live busy lives, and they just do not want their therapist assigning homework to them. But that is a form of therapy where cognitive behavior therapy is a lot of homework involved. I realized that my clients did not like that. So they can use my workbook at their leisure. And if there was something that spoke to them, they will bring it and we will discuss it together. So those are the reasons that prompted me to write the 2 books. I learned a lot about myself. So in these books, I talk about the 4 disciplines of mindful acceptance. And mindful acceptance is an approach to life where you're controlling what you can and letting go of what you can't. It is the epitome of it is what it is in a non-complacent manner, but in a very active and intentional manner. So I am going to list my 4 disciplines of mindful acceptance and tell you how I use them to learn about myself in writing this book.
Okay, so before you do that, we are going to go on a break. And when you come back, you're going to go through that. If you or your healthcare provider has been looking for a quality compounding pharmacy in the Lake Norman area, look no more. Rose Pharmacy is the place for you. Quality shows in every aspect of what we do. If you are taking too many medications, too many supplements, or both, make sure that you take advantage of our consultation services. We're going to help you safely solve that issue. And if someone asks you how your gut's doing, what would be your answer? Are you suffering from inflammation, chronic bowel issues, bloating, feeling sluggish? Remember that everything begins and ends with a healthy gut. And the effectiveness of any therapy that you may be on is linked to how well your gut is performing. And if we can improve your gut, many of these issues that you think you can do nothing about on your own can respond favorably. So take advantage of one of Rose Pharmacy's gut bundles that we can tailor specifically to your needs, because our goal is to help you get and stay on track with a much better quality of life. We're going to continue with Dr. Adams on the other side of the break. See you then. We are back with the Elle Show. I am your host, Dr. Nicole Eastman. If you or your healthcare provider has been looking for a quality compounding pharmacy in the Lake Norman area, look no more. Rose Pharmacy is the place for you. Quality shows in every aspect of what we do. And if you are taking too many medications, too many supplements, or both, make sure that you take advantage of our consultation services. We can help you safely solve that issue. And if someone asks you, how's your gut doing? What would be your answer? Are you suffering from inflammation, chronic bowel issues, bloating, feeling sluggish? Remember that everything begins and ends with a healthy gut. The effectiveness of any therapy that you may be on is linked to how well your gut is performing. And if we can improve your gut, many of these issues that you think you can do nothing about on your own can respond favorably. So take advantage of one of Rose Pharmacy's gut bundles where we can tailor specifically to your needs, because our goal is to help you get and stay on track with a much better quality of life. And with Rose, there is a guarantee of what is in each bottle of any of the supportive supplements that we offer. And very few companies can say that. Mention that you heard about our Fixing Your Gut on the Elle Show or WSSC News, and we are going to give you 10% off your purchase. Feel free to interact with us on social media or call the studio, 844-STUDIO-4. And we are back with Dr. Adams. She was just about to get into the 4 disciplines of mindful acceptance. And Dr. Adams, please continue, because these are the pillars for her book.
So the 4 pillars are be mindful, intentional, creative, and compassionate. And as I mentioned, I will let you know how these pillars highlighted some things about myself when I was writing this book. Let me define the 4 pillars first. To be mindful. Mindfulness historically was associated with Eastern culture and religion. In today's time and in Western culture, we've really watered it down. It is not the same. Being mindful just means moment-to-moment awareness. To be able to focus your attention where you want to focus it, right here, right now, in this moment. So often we are worried about what's going to happen in the future or what has already occurred in the past, that we are not mindful of what is going on right now, inside and outside of our body. So being mindful is to increase your awareness of how you are feeling and thinking at any given moment. Be intentional. Be intentional means to increase your awareness also of your triggers, sensitivities, family of origin. Increase your awareness of all of these things so that you can make very informed decisions. When you're not intentional, you're behaving on autopilot. And in most cases, you're engaging in survival skills that you no longer need today. Be creative. Being creative is a mindset that lets you know that whatever you're going through, all will be well. You will figure it out. No need to fret. If you have that mindset, you're not going to go down the deep, dark rabbit hole of, I'm stuck. Feeling stuck leads directly to depression. If you can unstuck yourself, as they say, you are going to live a life of more peacefulness, flexibility, and creativity. And then to be compassionate means to allow yourself to have grace for all of your imperfections. No one is perfect. Sit in a seat of being perfectly imperfect, right?
I like that, perfectly imperfect. Mm-hmm.
So do we have time for me to list how?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
All right. So I was mindful when I was writing my book because I realized that I was sensitive to criticism and rejection. I've been in private practice for over 15 years. I haven't been subject to critique and criticism. And when I wrote the book, it became obvious that I was sensitive to feedback. I was nervous to send out proofs of my book to be read by people because I was afraid of the feedback. But there was no way that I couldn't send out the book. That is a part of writing a book. You have to.
You have to.
You just have to. Mm-hmm. And while writing the book, I came across a particular approach to therapy that I use with my clients and I also use in my life. It's called Acceptance and Commitment Therapy, ACT. And one of the tenets of acceptance and commitment therapy is behave based upon your values, not how you feel. So my value was to write a book that could be helpful. However, I was feeling insensitive. I was feeling sensitive and didn't want to do it because I didn't know what people would think of it. So my value said, don't worry about that. Just write the book. That's not what's important. So I had to become mindful of all of that. I was intentional about getting it done. This was important to me. I had to overcome my feelings and thoughts and be intentional about moving forward by any means necessary. I made a commitment to myself. Follow through on your commitments. I also had to change my mindset from an outcome focus to a values focus. My husband is a financial person, so he wants to know, will the book sell? Will you make any money? And that added too much pressure on me. When I started thinking, oh my goodness, what if no one likes it? What if no one purchased the book? If I don't make any sales? That was overwhelming, so much so that I began to have writer's block. As a result, I started to focus on the journey, the process, and the value that's inherent in writing a book versus the outcome. I was creative in my time. At that point in my life, I was working full time. I had 2 young kids, and I was a very active mother.
Midnight, 1 a.m.
Yes.
I remember. Yes, when you were doing it.
Yes, I had to be very creative. One way I was creative by saying, at 9 p.m., mommy shut down. I'm done with mommy duties. I'm done with wife duties. Mm-hmm. And this was just a season. So I made it clear to them because I find open communication to be very important. So I told all parties involved, this is just a season. This is not forever. This is my grind season. I need you guys to support me. At 9 o'clock, find your father, leave me alone. This is my time. I also found that sitting at home writing was not the answer because there was laundry, there was cooking, and there was other cleaning. I had to go to Starbucks and Panera during the daytime just to make time to write. And that was my way of being creative. And lastly, being compassionate. And that's going to encompass all of that. I had to be compassionate when I was struggling, when I couldn't make time, or when the words just wouldn't flow, or because I was not asking for help. That's a big thing. I didn't want to ask for help. And when I did ask for help, I felt like I didn't get the help that I needed. There were a lot of emotions, a gamut of emotions, but I had to be self-compassionate. And there are several books that I read that were helpful to me. And as we talk about compassion, there is a book called Self-Compassion by Kristen Neff. There's another really good book that was helpful in dealing with perfectionism. It's called The Gifts of Imperfection by Brene Brown. Those are some of my favorite books. I have many others, but those are two favorite books that helped me in writing this book.
So I'll say this. I remember when you were writing the book, and I remember how you were very, very, you were like, I'm going to get it done. You're very intentional about your time. I remember the nights and I just remember all that. And it was very, very inspiring. I'm like, wow, she is getting this done and you're working through all, and I didn't even know that you were working through many of these things in your head. I had no clue. So you hid that very well. Okay. But, again, really, I think that one thing that you also offer is that workbook. And you talk about journaling and how effective journaling can be. Unfortunately, we don't have a whole lot of time to discuss it in this show, but we're going to have Dr. Adams back again on another show. But I do, before we go, I want to make sure that people know, how can they find out more about you, about your practice?
My website is drchacityadams.com, drchacityadams.com. My social media hook is at drchacityadams. I'm on Facebook, IG, and TikTok.
So, again, this big thank you to Dr. Adams. And, I feel like our shows are just so short. I want to have longer shows. Maybe we can talk about that. But again, thank you for your time today. And we're, of course, going to have you back on the show. And if you or your healthcare provider has been looking for a quality compounding pharmacy in Lake Norman area, look no more. Rose Pharmacy is the place for you, where quality shows in every aspect of what we do. And if you are taking too many medications, too many supplements, or both, make sure that you take advantage of our consultation services where we can help you safely solve that issue. And if someone asks you how your gut's doing, if you're suffering from inflammation, chronic bowel issues, bloating, feeling sluggish, remember that everything begins and ends with your gut. If we can improve your gut, we can get many of those issues that you're dealing with to respond favorably. So take advantage of one of Rose Pharmacy's gut bundles that we can tailor specifically to your needs and, of course, help you get and stay on track with a much better quality of life. And remember, there's a guarantee of what is in each and every bottle that we have on our shelves, and very few companies can offer you that. Mention that you heard about Fixing Your Gut on the Elle Show or WSSC News, and we're going to give you 10% off your purchase. I want to, again, huge thank you to everyone who has tuned into this week's segment of the Elle Show, and a huge thank you to my girl, my bestie, Dr. Chasity Adams, who is awe-inspiring, who lives what she claims, who is, there's no dichotomy in the way that she moves in daily life versus the way that she practices. So again, thank you for being an inspiration. I am your host, Dr. Nicole Eastman, pharmacist and owner of Rose Pharmacy and Boutique Apothecary here in Cornelius. And for those of you who missed any part of the show or any of our previous shows, you can find them on WSSCnews.com, or you can watch by following them on Facebook. We are also on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. And ladies, remember to block off that 3 to 4 p.m. time slot every Friday for the Elle Show, because I want this to be our happy hour where we are wrapping up a busy week together on a very uplifting note. Thanks again to all of our listeners and viewers. Can't wait to spend this time with you again next Friday. Have a safe and fun weekend. Thank you, Dr. Adams.
Thank you for having me.